Okay, so it's that time of year again. The time of year, the trick or treat time of year. Halloween is fast approaching on us, and we're going to have a look at a report that sort of examines or looks at the most generous places in the UK for trick or treating. So Michelle Pearce-Burke is going to join us on the show to give us a bit of an insight into what the rundown is. Michelle, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board. Can you give us a bit of an insight into, some of the most generous places in the UK around Halloween?
Sure. And hi, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, so we did a study that kind of looked at a lot of different aspects of Halloween and trick-or-treating and how people were behaving. Part of it did look at generosity and where all the treats are and where the best spaces are to go. Um, Within that, we found the kind of top places tended to be actually Wales and London ranked the highest, um, with sort of Manchester around the middle of the pack for that. So there's a load of different data that we found in the study, some really interesting points. I think overall it showed that it's quite a polarized tradition. There are some people who really love it, and there are some people who just hate Halloween. And we found that like 50% of us are actually what we term Halloween hiders. So are actually still just not wanting to get involved. They're closing their door or they're not opening it on the big night at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I was going to go off track a little bit, Michelle, just sort of going off track a little bit. Do you think that possibly? I mean, I have to admit, I've been to the States before around Halloween time, and it really is I really enjoy it. To be fair, I like the sort of the vibe. It is what it is, isn't it? I think sort of getting. But do you think maybe people might see it as maybe an American thing and doesn't translate to the UK type thing, or other places around the world probably see it the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people they do classify it as like an American over commercialized tradition, and that's fine. Different people have different views. In my opinion, it's kind of, I mean, it actually started off as a Celtic tradition and then it kind of moved to America, it changed. And I just think traditions, they always evolve and they always change, and you can take or leave what you and your family like from the tradition. I mean, for me, like, I don't personally love all the kind of overhyped, like a lot of the kind of commercial and plastic stuff that goes along with Halloween. But I love the pumpkins on the doorstep, and I love the tradition of taking the children out, getting them dressed in a bin bag, and popping around to the neighbors' houses, getting a few candy bars for them. And I think there's something really nice in that, and I think it's a really nice like community activity as well, when it's done in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sort of getting the balance, and like certainly, I think one thing that is nice, sort of look, particularly in the States, and I'm sure a lot of places in the UK, is that community vibe, and you got the autumn as well, the leaves, and everything that goes with it. To be fair, and why not get a scary film as well too, type thing. But I suppose the thing in an ideal world, shall that be great? But one thing that's sort of like in the back of my mind is safety. I have to admit, I'd be a bit worried if I'm honest. Like, I'm not one to sort of like to be too cynical, but there is that element, not, safety really. That's a big thing, really. I'm sure a lot of parents will probably maybe think the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, in the study we did, we found that 1 in 5 parents actually don't believe trick-or-treating is safe, which is a shame. And I think, we're growing more aware of a society of the risks in it. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I've created Trick or Treat. And we've got a community map that allows you to see who in your neighborhood is trick-or-treating and to plan your routes in advance. And we found that 9 in 10 people actually would feel a lot better about knowing in advance where they were going, and it would kind of help them get over that sort of safety element of the night, because you're not just then knocking at a random door. The house will welcome you. You can kind of, maybe some families choose to add basic information about their house on the map, so you can kind of maybe guess who's in there. You can see comments that other people might have left about the trick or treat stop. And it just makes the whole thing a bit more coordinated and gets rid of some of the elements of safety concerns, though I would caveat that with it doesn't replace adult supervision at all. I think trick-or-treating, you need an adult there with you if you're going to be knocking on strangers' doors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose the other thing I was thinking too, and once again, not to sound cynical, my concern would be from the perspective of sort of like maybe giving some treats, would be like if there's any allergies type thing. I'd be worried that basically if I got some treats from somewhere, I'm not an expert in these matters really. I'd be sort of worried, well, what if I got a bag of treats from like the supermarket, and you give them out, and there's some sort of allergen in there, you know what I mean? Michelle,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah, no,
that's a bit over the top, but yeah.
yeah, I do know what you mean. I mean, part of what we've built with Trick or Treat maps is when you add your property to the map, your house or your business, you can also optionally add about what goodies you're handing out. And that might be that you're handing out sweets and chocolates. Some people might be handing out like toys and trinkets, or some people might be, doing some home cooking and making some cakes. And different families will like different things, and it just gives everyone the option that they then kind of know what they're walking into and they know what they might be getting as well. So, particularly great if you've got kids who are allergy sufferers, or maybe if you've got young kids as well who you don't want to be having loads and loads of sugar, then you could try and like weave in some places that have toys or trinkets on offer as well, which might be things like, a glow stick or a little toy or something.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Michelle. I think you had a great idea there, really, to be fair, because it gives you that sort of element of safety, addressing sort of concerns. I think if it can be managed in a way where people are aware, you know which house the kids are going, and vice versa, and what's been sort of given out type thing. And, I think it can work. It can be a great experience, that's for sure. I'd feel a lot better anyway, knowing there is some element of control there than just sort of randomly, turning up and knocking on the houses type thing. And is that a sentiment you think echoed by a lot of people? Maybe I'm just being a bit overcautious, and yeah.
Not at all. I don't think you're being overcautious at all. I mean, I'm with you. That's why I founded the map and I created it last year, because I was tired of sort of the guesswork and slightly awkward door knocking in some scenarios. And since we've created the map, we know other people feel like this, and we know they like it, because with in just in the last couple of weeks, we've had 70,000 families in the UK, already join the map. So we know it's really resonating with people, and they're adding their houses by the hundreds and thousands every day. So obviously this map does solve a problem for a number of people. And I think it's different for different people. Some people like it because it takes the stress away from the evening. Some people think it makes it safer. And some people, I think social anxiety is quite a big point as well, which maybe, maybe a few decades ago, we weren't on our phones so much, and we were more used to popping around to neighbours' houses and knocking on doors and just showing up. Whereas, like it or not, our society's kind of evolved now, and that's less in our culture. We are more planned now. We are on our phones, on our devices, and many of us like that comfort blanket of knowing where is welcoming you and your children.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I suppose there is that too. I mean, there might be people who, for example, say they might not go to the door just through their own anxiety. I mean, it's sort of time of year as well. You've got sometimes fireworks going off in the background, and it might be overwhelming for some people. I think, Michelle, someone knocking on the door type thing. I think it's people might have all the best intentions, but it just might be a bit overwhelming for them to have someone knocking on door type thing. So, it may not be down to
Yeah.
not to sort of generosity, it might be just purely down to like, well, generally afraid to open the door type thing to someone that we don't know.
Yeah, and many people are. There are, of the people who hide away on Halloween, we found that about 30% of them are hiding away because of safety concerns. And I don't really like the idea either of people feeling like they have to hide away in their house, having to turn off the lights, or about one in three of us having to physically go out the house because you don't want to be disturbed. So I see the map as being like almost like you're playing the trick or treat game, and therefore you kind of need a map to be respectful and to figure out where you're welcomed. And and leave those people alone who are not partaking, because it's their decision.
No, absolutely. And if people want to find out more about the map, where can they go, Michelle? Where can people have a look to see if they want to get involved? There's still time before Halloween, or maybe even next Halloween. But where can they sort of go to sort of get their head round and maybe sort of like go on board and try and create, because it can be a great experience. I think absolutely Halloween can be a good experience. I think an enjoyable experience. But obviously it's some of the issues we've talked about. At least addressing or going towards a long way towards sort of doing your best to address them. But where can they go, Michelle, to find out more information?
Yeah, sure. So they just go to the website, which is www.trickortreatmap.com, and they can just sign up from there. It's free to add your house to the map and to see your neighborhood, and it's quick and easy to do.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks for that, Michelle. I should say happy Halloween when it comes along. So have a great time over Halloween, and I hope you get the trees that you're looking for as well. So yeah,
thank you, and happy Halloween to you too. Have a
take care.
good one, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.